Starmer's war on pensioner benefits stirs national debate. Keir Starmer faces backlash over pensioner policies as he defends hard role of PM. Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer has recently stirred controversy by openly acknowledging the challenges of his position while defending his government's contentious decisions regarding pensioner benefits. Speaking at a Labour Party conference, Starmer described the role of Prime Minister as hard and emphasised that his administration had no choice but to implement tough decisions in order to stabilise the UK's fragile economy. Winter fuel allowance cuts spark outrage. One of the most criticised moves by the Labour government under Starmer's leadership is the reduction of the winter fuel allowance. This benefit, which has traditionally been provided to all pensioners, is now being restricted to only the poorest households. Chancellor Rachel Reeves justified the policy as a necessary step to address a staggering £22 billion deficit inherited from the previous Conservative administration. Starmer has reiterated the importance of such fiscal measures, claiming that his government is focused on restoring economic stability and ensuring the sustainability of public finances. However, the policy has ignited significant public outcry, with critics labeling it as an attack on vulnerable pensioners during a cost-of-living crisis. Criticism from opponents and allies alike, the backlash has been swift and vocal. Former Prime Minister Rishi Sunak accused Starmer of covering up the potential consequences of these cuts, arguing that they could lead to increased deaths among pensioners unable to afford heating during the winter months. Sunak further criticised the Labour government for what he described as a lack of compassion in their policymaking. Labour MP Diane Abbott also voiced her concerns, accusing Starmer of perpetuating harmful stereotypes about the benefits system. Abbott suggested that the rhetoric used by the Labour leadership risks alienating the very groups of people the party claims to represent. It's one thing to make tough decisions, but it's another to stigmatise those who rely on government support, she said during a public statement. Impact on pensioners. Several organisations and think tanks have expressed alarm at the potential consequences of cutting the winter fuel allowance. According to research published by The Times, the reduction could push up to 100,000 pensioners into poverty. Furthermore, experts warn that without adequate support, many elderly individuals could face life-threatening conditions during harsh winter weather. The Scottish Sun reported that some pensioners might even freeze to death due to their inability to pay for adequate heating. The Financial Times highlighted that these cuts disproportionately affect the middle-income elderly population, who often find themselves excluded from government assistance programs despite facing significant financial pressures. This group, often referred to as the squeezed middle, may be forced to choose between heating their homes and affording other essentials like food and government's defense. Despite the criticism, Starmer remains resolute. He argues that his government's actions, while unpopular, are necessary to avoid long-term economic disaster. In his speech, he admitted that the path ahead would not be easy, but emphasized that leadership requires making difficult choices for the greater good. It's hard being Prime Minister, Starmer said, but it's even harder to see the country suffer because of decades of poor decisions. We are taking steps to put this right. Chancellor Rachel Reeves echoed Starmer's sentiments, stating that the government is focused on prioritising resources for those who need them the most. She reassured the public that the winter fuel allowance would still be available to the lowest income households, and that additional. A divided public opinion on the issue remains deeply divided. While some see the Labour government's actions as necessary for economic recovery, others argue that targeting pensioners during a time of economic hardship is both cruel and counterproductive. Activists and advocacy groups have called for a reversal of the cuts, urging the government to find alternative solutions to address the deficit. What lies ahead for Starmer's government? The controversy over the winter fuel allowance is just one of many challenges facing Sir Keir Starmer as he navigates his tenure as Prime Minister. His government has promised to deliver a fairer and more sustainable economy, but the backlash over pensioner policies highlights the difficulty of balancing fiscal responsibility with social equity. As winter approaches, the pressure on the Labour government to provide additional support for vulnerable groups is likely to intensify. Whether Starmer can weather this political storm and maintain public trust remains to be seen. For now, his acknowledgement of the hard nature of leadership may resonate with some, but for those affected by his policies, actions will speak louder than words.